All right, we are back here with Jordan Pollock, our sports editor at the Daily Wildcat, for another episode of our football podcast. How are you today, Jordan?
I'm doing good, dude. I'm doing good. We're going to go get some Chick-fil-A after, so I'm real excited.
I don't know about that, but let's get into football and start things off and talk about last week's game against Oregon. It was in Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. Arizona lost 41-19. They were down by 5 points heading into the fourth quarter. Jordan McCloud did have the team rallying despite 5 turnovers. What's your overall thoughts of the game?
I thought the first 3 quarters, which were full of U of A mistakes, and to be in the game within 5 points, I thought was insane. Not something I thought, like, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, if we, like, did an upset, like, back in 2014, like, this would blow up college football. Yeah, so just to be in the game at that point, I thought was really cool, especially, like we thought the BYU game was cool, and, like, oh, like, we were with BYU, this, like, historically, like, solid program, and then Oregon, who's, like, the top team, like, easily in the Pac-12 over the last few years, and we were in that game, was just, like, really cool amidst all the mistakes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that 2014 game when they won in Oregon, beat, I believe, number 2 to 3 Oregon at the time.
I think they're 3.
Yeah.
Or 2.
When I was preparing for the game, when I was in Oregon, actually, I was looking at the stats and the history, and I thought in the back of my mind, maybe 7 years later, they're ranked the same, Oregon. Could they do it again? And I'm not going to lie, I thought for a second in that third quarter that Arizona could win the game.
Just a second?
Yeah. Did you?
I did. I know the first offensive play from scrimmage that Jordan McCloud took was very much like, oh, like, it's going to be that kind of game. But the defense played, like, very well. The defense, and amidst, like, they had a few early drives that I think they scored their first 3 drives, and they just, like, went down and scored, but they were getting stops in the third quarter, and that really surprised me. I was not expecting us to stop their running game the way we did.
Yeah, and let's just start off, talk about the defense a little bit more. Arizona held Oregon to 24 points through 3 quarters, which is really incredible up until that point. Mo Diallo, in his first play of the game, had that safety in the third, I believe, which was a big game changer.
Huge.
Trayvon Mason was really good in there. But it just seems like the cornerbacks on Arizona have been, the spot that needs a lot of improvement, and the spot that has been getting beat, so many times on the outside.
Yeah, I agree with you. And especially against Oregon, who is like a running team, they did have some. I know they had a lot of big plays from the slant, so I think that's the Viper position. I think Christian Young is at that position, so that's also just like a brand new system, so I think you're going to have kinks like that. It'll be interesting to see, like, against more of a pass-heavy offense, like against USC in a few weeks, what we do against that. But
yeah, and we'll talk about that a little later, but the first drive when they scored, I believe, a 50-yard touchdown or more, that I was just like, here, I just said to myself, like, here we go again, same stuff, different week, as they were already down 2 scores before we even knew it. But let's talk about the offense a little bit, Jordan. As we know, another Jordan McCloud, started his first game as an Arizona Wildcat. We know he came from USF, where he had a little bit of experience. But, yeah, let's talk about what he did. He totaled over 230 yards through the air. He had a touchdown, but he did have the 5 picks. He added over 60 yards on the ground himself, which, to me, I'm going to say it right here, the reason that Jedd Fisch did announce after the game McCloud will be the quarterback moving forward, and we'll talk about that some more. But Jordan McCloud has the one thing that is elite. It is his legs.
Mm-hmm.
He's an elite runner, which it doesn't seem like Cruz or Plummer right now are elite at anything.
Yeah. Just looking at the stats, 9 carries for 64 yards. That's a lot. He averaged the most yards per carry out of all our running backs, and that was off of a night where we had over 200 yards on the ground. So that was definitely a part of the game that wasn't there with Wohl, Plummer, and Gunnar Cruz. I know that was one thing that I said last week that I was really interested to see how he can extend plays like that. And it was really fun to see him use his legs in those third down and those second down situations when the play breaks down, because Oregon's defense, I think their 2 best players didn't even play, and one of them's a corner. Like, they're still legit. Like, they went into Columbus and not shut down, but they played really well against Ryan Day's Ohio State offense, which has been like one of the pinnacles of college football over the last few years. So I figured that we wouldn't be able to get tons of explosive plays, but it was really cool to see how we ran the ball, especially like with McCloud.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest Ohio State fan.
No, I'm not either. As a Wisconsin fan, oh heck no.
Yeah, so it's good to see that they're not doing too well in college football.
Oh, true.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, McCloud, he had one of the most bizarre games and just weird games I've seen from a quarterback or any player, to that fact, in any sport really, in a long time, because when I was watching the game, it came off like he had a good game, but then, with the picks, that brings it down a lot, because you can't see someone had a really good game and then you throw 5 picks. He had 3 picks in the first 3 quarters, but it's just really weird. Like, what do you make of his overall performance?
I think a lot of that Jed Fish talked about in the post game was a lot of those interceptions are correctable. They weren't just like boneheaded plays. Like, a lot of them were timing issues and not getting the ball out quick enough. Like, I think there are at least 3 of them were in the red zone, and a majority.
Pick 6.
Oh, and then the pick 6, but a majority of all of them were just like very lately thrown balls. Like, I remember one specifically where he threw to the right pylon, and the safety flew in and picked it off, and the receiver was wide open. It was just like very late, gave the safety enough time to rotate and pick the ball off. And so I'm going with what Coach Fish said, and at least they're correctable, as opposed to like some of the Will Plummer interceptions against NAU, which were just like boneheaded mistakes.
Yeah, there are, and I expected a lot of mistakes. Every game coming into this year, new coach, new system, some new players. But yeah, like, it's just, every game you could say if you switch and change these certain things, the game could go a different way. But this game, I really felt that way, because he had 5 interceptions and they lost by 3 touchdowns. Which, by the way, Arizona did cover the spread of I believe 29.5 by the time it closed. So yeah, what would the game have looked like if he thrown 3 interceptions? Or 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially off that first drive. Like, U of A hadn't run two offensive plays, and they were down, was it 14-0 or 10-0 at that point? It was like, that was a hole, and that was something that they had experienced at least against SDSU and BYU. Like, they were in a hole early, and it's like, oh, not this again. And he, like, kept his poise. I know that was something really big. I said the biggest thing I've noticed about, like, at least Gunnar Cruz, who I would say is the backup right now, is he was just, like, hesitant. And
that's the one thing.
Didn't look anything outside of that. And Jordan McCloud made mistakes, but he kept his poise, and he just kept playing.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that Jed Fish said you don't want to see out of a quarterback, to be hesitant and not, know exactly what you want to do. But what I said to myself after Jed announced after the game, the starting quarterback backup moving forward, Will Plummer is hurt right now, so he won't be a part of that. But it's kind of just, it was literally like I was there, one of a few people, press conference after the game. It was like his second thing he said. He was like, no, he didn't hesitate. He was like, Jordan McCloud's our starter moving forward. Like, end the discussion. Like, he already knew. And then he said, like, things like he was our quarterback all along.
That was late. Very confusing.
He came in late, so he's learning to play. I get that, but then it's like, what does that say to Will Plummer, Gunnar Cruz, who didn't throw 5? They didn't look great, but they didn't throw 5 interceptions,
True.
So it's like, for them, it's like, what do they have to do to, because let's be real. I'll praise Arizona all day over that game. Like, they're covering the spread against top 3 team in the country. But, I mean, they lost by 3 scores. He throws 5 picks. It's like, yeah, he did have some good, but a lot bad.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I was really confused when he said that Jordan McCloud's kind of been their guy the whole time, just because that's not what he's been saying. And all of a sudden, Jordan McCloud goes out and he shows a lot of promise, and he makes some mistakes. They're correctable. But apparently Jordan McCloud's talent is just like far and above Will Plummer and Gunnar Cruz's, which I agree with, at least off of what we've seen so far.
And I've been critical of Fish's play calling over the last few weeks and the start of the season, but it seemed like maybe his play calling does fit McCloud's style of play a little better, that run-heavy offense. Drake Anderson led the team in rushes, over 20 rushes, only 67 yards, did score a touchdown. But, yeah, he looked really good too, and the line looked a little bit improved. But maybe,
Definitely.
or the other thought I had is McCloud had that flash in my head of, Khalil Tate of 2015 or 16 or so.
I think it was during the game I tweeted, I said, what if McCloud is what we all thought Khalil Tate was supposed to be? Who knows?
He does, I think, have 3 years of eligibility after this year left.
True.
I believe.
Oh, I hope so. It'll be fun, especially if Fish and the company can stay around. Because that was a big thing, like Khalil Tate. Khalil Tate had 2 completely different coaching staffs with 2 completely almost different philosophies. Richard just wanted to run the ball, and Kevin Sumlin wanted to be a lot more balanced, to where this team right now, like 53 runs to 35 passes, that's somewhat balanced, but still more run heavy. So it'll be good, especially if you don't have to lean on your quarterback to make or break your games.
Yeah, I wanted to mention also a guy on the offense who's had over 3 coaching staffs too at his time at Arizona, and that's Bryce Walma. He's in his 5th year at Arizona, and as a Wildcat, he had a touchdown for the first time in over 2 years, and it was just great to see. It brought a smile to my face to see that.
Oh, yeah, that was also their first touchdown.
Yep.
And so, oh, yeah, that was his only catch, though, which was kind of shocking to me. I know they had another tight end, I think, that had one more catch.
Yeah, Alex Lyons.
But, yeah, that was cool, because it was like a little screenplay, wasn't it? Oh, that was so fun to watch.
It seems like, the tight ends aren't getting, 3 to 5 catches or more a game, but they're really, every game, they're making it a necessity to get it, at least 1 to 2 catches for a tight end and get them involved a little bit, which, as we know, is an improvement for the last 5 or so years.
Definitely. And I think that's just also consistent to the way football is played nowadays. Like, when Travis Kelce and George Kittle first got in the NFL, they weren't getting the ball 8+ times a game. Like, they start off slow, and especially a position that isn't as marquee as the tight ends. Like, they're doing a little bit of everything, so the targets aren't going to be their number one stat. Their number one stat mostly is going to be in run blocking, especially with the way they're used in Fish's offense, which is primarily is a blocker, but also running like the screenplay with Bryce Walma, and also like little gadget outs and just like second read options.
Yeah,
in the passing game.
Yeah, and moving down the offense, talking about some of the receivers. Stanley Berryhill led the team, obviously, in receiving for the 4th straight week. 5 catches, 75 yards. Booby Curry had 4 catches for 49 yards.
Your boy.
Yeah, nice to see him involved for the 2nd straight week. But the guy, I asked Coach Fish after the game about Jamari Joyner. He did play. He played a few snaps. I counted on basically one of my hands, 3 to 5 maybe. I don't know the exact number.
He was in, I think, on the Bryce Walma touchdown,
wasn't
he?
Was, yes, yeah. But I asked him if he's going to be 100, when he's going to be 100% healthy and see that full workload, and he stopped me right away. He said that Jamari Joyner is 100% healthy, was 100% healthy in this past game, and that basically tells you that Jamari Joyner isn't a top 3 or so receiver right now on this team, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah, especially where we were like a year ago, where he was pretty much like easily the number one guy, even preseason outside of his foot injury. I remember even the SDSU game when he didn't play at all. They kept him out for health reasons, and I asked Jed Fish the same thing about like his status. And Jed Fish, I remember he said they had plays specifically for him.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, and he hasn't brought – when I asked him, he didn't say, like, yeah, we had plays. It was just, he's healthy, which, that tells us that Jamar Joyner is healthy, and that's what they got for him right now. He kind of, by getting injured, fell out of the loop of those top few receivers.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, skill-wise, he is, like, pretty much in that Stanley Berryhill, like, conversation, so maybe it's just position-wise, they're like don't really know how to fit him on the field with Berryhill. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, honestly.
I mean, because they play a little bit different position, but I mean, Berryhill's getting a lot of the targets. He's been their most productive offensive player, so I mean, he is a better player than Joyner, right? He's better. He's shown in these 4 games he's better than Joyner has ever been here. I'm just gonna say that.
I think one ASU game his sophomore year would prove you wrong. But
yeah, I'm not saying he hasn't had really great games, but I'm saying the consistency game in, game out that Stanley Berryhill is producing is crazy. And the last 2 games, Boobie Curry stepped up and produced.
True.
He catches it when his number's called, and he's been reliable. So I think they're receivers. I've always said they're deep there. So I don't think Joyner. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt them that he's not out there a lot, but it's not a game changer.
Yeah, it also depends on targets too, because if the quarterbacks are being told to look in Berryhill's direction more and in Curry's direction more, then Jamari is just getting the short end of the stick and not getting the looks and the targets that those guys are. I don't think it's fair of us to say that he's not good, because I think he definitely is good, or at least that he's not as good as Berryhill, because I think talent-wise, like he has had performances where he looks like the best athlete on the field, and so I think there's just one football, and sometimes it just leaves really good athletes in sorry positions because there's a few really good athletes on the team.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the quarterback battle going into this year, like where they had a lot of really like great athletes, some really good talent at the wide receiver position, and Jed Fish and company just went in with the mindset of, earn your spot, because Joyner was that guy 2 years with Sumlin, but this is a new year, new team. You got to re-earn your spot, and Berryhill proved he's the guy. Cunningham's on the field a lot. They like him. I want to see him more involved with more deep balls being involved in the offense. So, yeah, hopefully he can get on the field, or he might find a way in the transfer portal in the offseason.
With Cunningham?
No, I'm talking about
Joyner.
Joyner.
Yeah, because he still gets a year.
I think he's what is he? He's a senior, right?
He's a senior. He could be a graduate transfer, probably.
Yeah,
COVID year.
At least one more year. But any final thoughts before we move on about this game versus Oregon?
Yeah, I think just to go back to the defensive end, I think it's going to be interesting to see going forward in Pac-12 play and against some really good offenses, how Don Brown can get some turnovers. I think that was one of the biggest things. Like, the safety's huge. Second safety of the season. I did not think we would get 2 safeties in the first 4 games. That kind of surprised me. But I think turnovers is like a bit. We had a crap load of turnovers last week against NAU, but again, that's NAU. I don't think we had any against BYU. So it'll be interesting to see how possibly we can force turnovers going forward against some really good offenses that we're going to be playing coming up.
Yeah, I can only imagine Don Brown, that sideline, when I forget who it was on the first drive, missed that tackle. He probably was losing his mind. These guys, they just, for some reason, they don't tackle well. Yeah. They have a hard time with getting guys down. My overall last takeaway on this game is I thought it was a really great improvement for this football team. Mm-hmm. Going into Eugene, number 3 team in the country, underdog mindset, and really proving to be on that field, because Oregon's blown other teams out, and they'll continue to blow teams out. I think right now they're probably my second. To me, they're the number 2 team in the country. I think it's Alabama and Oregon. if I had to pick right now.
Interesting.
But yeah, I really think they're that good, and to do that on a road game, coming off of that, uninspiring NAU loss, really good step for this program.
Yeah, I hope they're just not putting us in a place that they did with the BYU game of just dropping us on our face in a few weeks and just not looking like, I don't know, even bet-worthy to try to bet against them.
Yeah, some surprising, stats if you look at the numbers of this game is that Arizona actually, had 31 first downs to Oregon's 17. They had more total yards, 435 to 393. And
I know the time of possession was...
We're just going to bring that up. 15 more minutes of time that Arizona held the ball rather than the Ducks, which was just... It's, normally if those three things I just named, you name them out, you would say the one side won, being Arizona in this case. Obviously they didn't, but it's really weird. It's really, that proves to me even more that it was the turnover issue that hurt them the most.
Yeah, I think tackling is also a big issue because they did put up 41 points and not needing the ball. That means we're just missing tackles and they're having huge plays.
The real question is, I believe that was the 15th straight game scoring under 20 points.
Yeah.
Can this team score over 20 points? Let's be real.
I have no idea. I honestly thought we were, especially, but
yeah, I
this
thought
past
the
weekend,
second quarter, we were definitely. I said that in my mind. I was like, we're definitely scoring at least 25.
True, and I was finna celebrate just that fact.
Yeah, it's really crazy. As we know, that was their 16th straight loss, dating back to October 5th, 2019, which is coming up on the 2-year anniversary in just a few days. And by the time they play UCLA after their bye week that they're currently on, will pass 2 years. So, which is really, it's just crazy to see that happen. And I mean, the only way to go is up from here, right?
I hope so.
Maybe.
I really hope so. I think we will score over 20 points at some point. I hope I'm not just being a hopeless romantic, but I saw a lot of really good and positive things from the U of A football team this past weekend, and I'm pretty certain that there's going to be a lot worse Pac-12 defenses that we play this season, even with Oregon having their two best players out for the game. So
yeah, well, on that note, we have to take a break and hear from our sponsor. That was a word from our sponsor. All right, we are back here. I am joined by Jordan Pollock once again. And Jordan, let's get into, since Arizona, is on a bye week, let's talk about some Pac-12 football. Pac-12, is still happening. There's games that are being played. And let's start it off with USC is going on the road to Boulder to play the University of Colorado. Two, struggling teams. Colorado's 1-3. USC is 2-2, but boy, did they look bad last week.
Yeah, they did. That game got really bad really quick for USC. It's such an interesting thing, especially since that's the most historic program in the Pac-12, and they've just been trying so hard to get back to that Pete Carroll-ish era of just trying to be in just national championship competition. It's
so weird because there's no lack of talent issue. They get 4 or 5 star guys. All their players.
They get all the top Cali recruits every year.
Yeah. Keaton Slovis got hurt. Their new quarterback Jackson Dart comes in, 4-star prospect, and he looked good for a period of time. But who do you think pulls that one? You think USC gets back on track?
I think they do, and that's just because
USC is favored by 7 points, by the way.
7 points, I see that. I think USC does get out of there with a win, and I think that is pretty much just off of talent reasons. I think Colorado, after losing by almost 3 scores to ASU, getting shut out to Minnesota, I think isn't quite there as a program yet. I know they have a new coach that hasn't been there a ton of time, but they're not they're like one of those smaller schools where they're not going to get great talent, so they do need coaching to help them out, and I don't think they're quite there yet. And especially getting that coach's head like top recruits in, I think they're still a little bit ways from being super competitive.
I agree with that too. And let's move on a little bit. I'm taking in that game. I think USC is going to win pretty big. Colorado.
Yeah, I think USC covers that spread.
Yeah. Next game up, let's just run through this pretty quick. Washington State's going on the road to Cal. Cal is they're 7.5 point favorites right now. Who do you like there? I think that line's a little too low. I think it's going to be.
You think Cal's going to win that game?
I don't know. I think I'm going to take Washington State.
Okay.
Take the upset.
You're going to take the upset. Okay.
Yep.
I know that's possible, especially after what we've seen from USC's football team when they went up there and got blown out 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Not Stanford. Yeah. Cal they're not too good.
Not too good. Do you have anything further to say about that?
I don't know about that. I'm going to leave it at that. Who do you take in that game?
I think Cal gets that win just because it's at Cal. I think home field advantage.
Washington at Oregon State. Oregon State, right now, they are 2.5 point favorites. Who do you got in this one, Jordan?
I got Oregon State, just kind of after what they did to USC. I don't think Washington is nearly as talented as USC. They might be a little better coached, but I don't really think that really means anything from what USC has, at least interim-wise right now.
Yeah, I agree. And the last big game of this slate is Arizona State, Pac-12 After Dark game at 7:30. It's going to be a good one. Can't wait to watch this one. Arizona State goes on the road to UCLA to play the Bruins.
It's a big one.
The 20th ranked Bruins. They had a little hiccup 2 weeks ago, but they're 3-1. They look good. UCLA minus 3.5. What do you got here?
I think, as of right now, I think those are the two best teams in the Pac-12 South, and so I think this game will have major implications going into who plays in the Pac-12 championship. I think UCLA laid a major duck egg 2 weeks ago to Fresno State, and they bounced back a little bit last week, but I think they can get the win this week. I've been a huge Chip Kelly guy since his days at Oregon, and I've loved what he's done at UCLA. He's still building up that program.
I didn't love what he did too much in Philadelphia with the Eagles.
Oh yeah,
as I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm gonna roll with my guy Chip Kelly. I've loved him in college, as you mentioned. Oregon years were great. But I think he's putting this UCLA team on the map for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, something Jim Moore could not do.
I think they're going to win by at least a touchdown against ASU.
Yeah, I think they'll cover that spread of 3.5.
Yeah, but before we go, Jordan, this week I wanted to just look at some of Arizona's up and coming games. They played 8 left. They're on their bye week currently. But next time we see them will be family weekend in Tucson. The Bruins are actually, as we just mentioned, they're coming to town. Mm-hmm. October 9th, it's a 7:30 start here in the desert. I mean, how do you think this game will play out?
It's a primetime game. It's on ESPN. I sadly think we will go 17 games in a row of losing.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree there.
Yeah. They still haven't given the opening lines for that game. I'm guessing they're waiting to see what they look like against Arizona State this weekend. But defensively, I don't see us really holding up much of a fight against that offense.
Yeah, DTR has been really good. And even if if Arizona State does pull out a win against UCLA this week, I really think that'll even light the fire more for UCLA staying in the desert 2 straight weeks. I think they're gonna beat Arizona pretty well, but you never know with that crowd. And I'm gonna say it now: the crowd, I think it's gonna be over 40,000 for family weekend, more than their opening game against San Diego State. What do you think?
Interesting. I guess I understand that. I also know that we're on a 16-game losing streak. So I don't think my hopes are up that we'll get over 40,000, but I also wouldn't be super surprised, especially with how awesome as students we have and like how awesome their families are for supporting them. And
It is a whiteout, by the way.
Oh, I did not know that. That might cause a stir to get people in the stands. So
I'm just going to say it now. I wouldn't be totally shocked if they won that game. Chip Kelly does choke in big games. It's not a big game, but, it's probably going to be the best crowd at Arizona Stadium this year, I would guess. I mean, it's against a top, 25 ranked team, with family weekend, could be the biggest crowd. I think that...
Yeah, you remember the last time? I think it was the last time UCLA came down and that game was primetime on ESPN, I think was that 2014 year?
Yeah.
Or was that 15? It was one of the years with Josh Rosen, I remember.
Yeah.
And they were, I think, like top 15 and we beat them. Oh, yeah. I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if we won, honestly. Like, especially if we played how we played against Oregon and we eliminated some of those turnovers. I don't think UCLA has nearly the defense that Oregon does. So we could put up points, and if it's a shootout, who knows? Especially with two quarterbacks that are super dual threatish. It could be a really fun game, but I think we could also get blown out. It's crazy. We're just such in a weird state of this team, and still like so many question marks, especially with the game Saturday and the quarterback position and how he progresses in the system. I know that was a big thing, like Fish said, that we talked about a little bit, was just like McCloud is just getting like his feet wet in the playbook, and that's like kind of the reason they've held him back. So I think a bye week will help them a lot, and I'm curious how much of the bye week will be in preparation for UCLA, or how much of it will just be them just trying to get better as a team. But it'll be interesting. It could be a shootout. If we win, I do not think we would blow them out.
Yeah,
by any means.
No, not a shot.
I know one thing I would be very curious to hear. Next week for our podcast, we should get the stat of the last time Arizona beat Chip Kelly.
I don't.
Do you remember that?
I do not. Do you?
I don't. I don't think we've beaten him since he's been at UCLA. Have we?
I don't. Have they ever beat him? Or no, they beat him in Oregon. They did.
2014.
Yeah, 2014. He was there.
No, he wasn't.
Oh wait.
He left
after years.
He left after like 2012, right? 2013.
Hold on 1 second. Let me double check that.
Oh, you want to pull it up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious if we've ever beaten him, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if we ever have. I know the one year we were closest, I think, was one of Nick Foles' years. The year that Zona Zoo started to storm the field in overtime, and then there was like a flag on the play, and they kicked a field goal, and they sent it to another overtime, and then they beat us, and Zona Zoo like ran out on the field once already, and we lost the game. I remember my brother was at that game. That was just...
Yeah, you did have it. Damn, I really thought that...
was that right?
He was there from 9 to 12. I thought he was there like 4 till 14. Got the years mixed up.
So have we beaten Chip Kelly?
No.
Oh my God.
I'm almost here, right here. Let's see.
Yeah, I personally don't think we have. That's why I brought that up. I don't think we've ever beaten him.
No.
Oh, wow.
Nope. They never beat Chip Kelly. They beat him the year after he left.
Yeah.
42-16 in Tucson, but that was it.
Yeah, that Kadeem Carey. Oh, that game was sick. That was a Scooby Wright interception. I think that was the first possession of the game where somebody was going out of bounds and like tossed it back into Scooby Wright. That game was sick.
Yeah, well, Jordan, before we wrap up and leave today, I just want to hear right off the bat, what's your top 5 in college football this year?
Oh my gosh.
Right off your head.
Right off my head, Alabama. Alabama's easily the best team in the country. I think Georgia's the second best team in the country. I think Well, it doesn't look like a great win now against Clemson. That was week 1. Oh my gosh. I don't think Oregon's great, but out of the teams that are up there, I don't think anybody's really better. I would say I would say Oregon. I would say Penn State is 4th.
I disagree.
I think Oklahoma's the 5th best. I think
I'm not a big confident with Oklahoma. My top 5 right now is Alabama 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3. I'm gonna go Iowa 4, even though I don't love it. And number 5, I'm gonna go Florida, just because the other teams I'm not confident any of them. Florida played Alabama really tight, and I think that they get a little credit for that loss. A lot of these other teams get blown out by Alabama, losing by, I think it was 3 points, if I'm correct.
it was a really fun game.
Yeah,
it was a really fun game to
I
watch.
think they get more credit than not for that.
I love Dan Mullins. Florida's I'm not a SEC lover, but Florida. If I was a SEC fan, Florida would easily be my favorite team. It was a really fun game to watch. I do think they are overrated. They're definitely outside of that top 5 because of that loss.
They don't have a elite quarterback.
They don't?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Interesting. I think he's all right. I think he's Emory Jones, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's okay. I mean, what's an elite quarterback nowadays?
Bryce Young.
Spencer Rattler.
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. He's a freshman.
Spencer Rattler's not. No, Bryce Young's a second year.
Oh yeah, he's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
He redshirted last year.
Yeah, but he was there.
But what defenses has he played?
None. Spencer Rattler, I did like last year, but as a sophomore, I don't think he's progressed at all.
Yeah, I think getting boos from your home crowd about starting the backup freshman quarterback behind you is not really a great look, especially from a guy that's supposed to be projected almost like easily a top 5 pick, if not the number 1 overall NFL draft pick.
Yeah, well, Jordan, I think that's all we're going to have time for today, but everyone be sure to follow us on all of our social medias at Wildcat Sports, at Daily Wildcat, on Twitter and Instagram. And even though it's a bye week, the basketball season is ramping up. You could still follow us at Wildcat Sports. The Red-Blue game is on Saturday at 3:30, so be sure to follow all of our coverage leading up to that, and we'll be back next week. Peace.
Thanks, guys.